Is it a power for good or for evil?
If God has seen fit to bless you with this gift, you should use it.
Bless me?
You're a devil. Sent from hell.
Who are you?
Who sent you?
I'm scared, sir. What's happening to me?
We're gonna get married. Johnny, don't leave me, please.
Deborah, Dead Zone is a total departure from your genre horror and science fiction movies that you've made in the last few years with John Carpenter. Is this a calculated effort on your part to elevate yourself into a new level of filmmaker?
Well, I don't think it was so calculated as it was fortunate for me that I was presented with Dead Zone. At first I didn't know whether or not I wanted to do it, and I asked a lot of friends, you know, should I do it, should I not do it? But after it was decided that David Cronenberg would be involved with the picture, and David and I sat down and we sort of had the same point of view, it seemed like it was going to work.
What was there about David as a director, or perhaps it's his films, that you really liked?
It really was his films, really, and obviously I guess if you like his films then you like the directorial effort. I just thought he had a great sense of character, and when I read the book, the thing that really stood out was how important it was to make Johnny a very vulnerable character, to make him likable, to make Stilson a very hateable character, to really pinpoint good versus evil. And I think that David was very capable of doing that. I liked Rabbit and I liked Scanners. I really liked The Brood. Mm-hmm. And so...
I thought that Johnny Smith's greatest trait was his tragic traits.
Yes.
That you knew he was doomed with the talents that he had, or I should say the gift of foresight. And I thought this was a thing that perhaps David was able to capture from the book, distill from the book.
Right, and also, too, we could have gone another direction. It would have been very easy, especially with Christopher Walken and the other roles that he had played in the past, to sort of not make him a very vulnerable character. And it was a lot of work within the writing, and I'm sure on set, to try to push that performance into that very sort of vulnerable, tragic character sense.
What's the toughest thing as a producer when you're dealing with a best-selling book and a writer like Stephen King? Are these sort of psychological stumbling blocks in a way?
Well, I don't think it's so much psychological stumbling blocks as it was that we wanted to stay true to form for the fans of the Stephen King novel, and not so much Stephen King as much as the fans, because I think they're the people who fall in love with every word and every aspect. And so we took that as a great responsibility to kind of hold true the form, the sensitivity of Stephen King, the New Englandness, you know, in all of his pictures, in all of his novels, he always has a religious mother. We wanted to keep that in it. You know, there was a lot in it that we wanted to hold, but we also realized that we had a 90 to 100-minute format, and you can't put everything in there.
Right. Now, when you hired David, you must have had in the back of your mind the fact that he's known for his graphic horror and special effects, exploding heads and so on. Yet the film Dead Zone does not deal with these things at all. In fact, it really minimizes, even when it might take more advantage of exploiting certain elements, doesn't. Was this a calculated effort on your part?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there were times when I'd say, no, come on, David, not scissors, please, not scissors. And he'd say, trust me. And I think that was the biggest thing, is that I trusted David. We had talked about it in the beginning. We were involved in helping with the screenplay and talking with Jeffrey Boehm, giving him our ideas, and we both built up a sense of trust, just like he had to trust me when I said we can't afford this location, or you have to wrap in 2 hours, you know we can't afford an extra day, that kind of thing. There had to be trust. And I trusted him, and I trusted his vision. You know, I trusted the way that he was going, in what areas he was going.
You and John Carpenter have seemed to each go off on your own pathway as filmmakers. Looking back on that period with John, you made some very good films. The Halloween series, Escape from New York. What was your working relationship? Did it always go very well with John?
Oh, yeah, we had been friends for a long time before we first started to work together. So that was a real calculated decision that we would work together, because we liked the way we treated one another. I also have a great deal of respect for him as a writer and director, and he did for me as a writer. It was a big shock for me when he said, do you want to produce Halloween? And I thought about it for about 2 minutes and said yes.
The Halloween was not an easy picture to produce for you, was it?
Well, it's my first picture.
Yeah.
We only had $300,000, and I'd never done it before. But having worked on so many pictures prior to that, as a script supervisor, as a crew member, I knew what I didn't like, and I knew that you had to feed your crew well. And so we did. We ate well. And you got a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends to do that picture with me.
How were you affected by the enormous success of Halloween Part 1? Because it made so much money. It was one of the most well-received independent low-budget productions of all time.
Well, it took us off guard because we were then going to do The Fog. And because one of the things that we loved about the critics' point of view on Halloween is that we had really been restrained, that there was no blood in it, that it was really scary and suspenseful without resorting to graphic violence. So, as much graphic violence as we could have. And so when we did The Fog, we also were too restrained for it. We had ghosts in the fog and stuff, and we screened it for some Hollywood High kids after it was finished. And they said, "You can't say anything. What's going on? We really want to see it." They weren't scared in that sense. They wanted to see more. So we went back and we reshot some sequences. So it was, we didn't want to become overly confident, and we didn't know why it worked in Halloween. So it was very confusing and frustrating.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something evil came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Who's there?
The fog.
Antonio Bay has a curse on it. We're all cursed. There's no water getting here, but something awful cold did.
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
Well, didn't you do a lot of additional shooting for Halloween Part 2? Because the director had restrained himself so much in initial principal photography.
Well, there's a lot of problems on Halloween, too. And I think that Rick Rosenthal is a good director, but I don't think he really understands suspense.
I thought that Escape from New York was your finest achievement, working with Carpenter. And again, I take it that that was a very, very difficult film for you to handle as producer because of the incredible amount of night shooting and logistics and so on.
Well, first of all, it was the biggest picture to date. It cost 7 times as much as The Fog, which is still only $7 million, which is still cheap compared to what other pictures cost these days. We had miniature units going on. We were, in essence, shooting all night long because we had a shooting crew and a rigging crew. We shot in St. Louis. We had to make it look like New York. It was extremely hot, and it was very, very difficult to just operate in the Midwest. You know, you didn't have the comforts of Hollywood around of labs. We had to ship the film back every single night. It took 2 or 3 days before we could see dailies, so we couldn't wrap sets that had been finished, so therefore we were paying for them. So it was really very, very difficult to put together. But to me, I think it is the most successful collaboration that I've had with John Carpenter. I love the picture, and I really enjoy still watching it these days.
Yeah, it's pure cinema. It really works very well.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What about Halloween Part 3? Again, were there some difficulties with the scripting? I know Nigel Neal did the original screenplay.
Nigel Neal did the original screenplay. He had a terrific idea, but he had brought to it a British sense of humor that I didn't think that the kids would understand. And we needed to direct something more to the kids that actually love to go see those pictures. So we brought Tommy Lee Wallace in, who also was another first-time director, and he's brilliant. He truly is brilliant. I think he did a great job in Halloween 3, given what he had to work with. And
now, with those pictures behind you, and with Dead Zone sort of moving you into a new area, what's your next step, Deborah? Where do you go from here?
Out of the horror genre and into the comedy genre. I'm doing Clue, based on the Parker Brothers game. Starring Colonel Mustard, Professor Plum, Mrs. White, Mrs. Peacock, and that's going to be really fun whodunit. John Landis is directing for Universal Pictures, and I'm developing a stage play called Suds for Broadway musical.
Great.
One
Well,
more,
Deborah, that was marvelous.
John.